What happens when two powerhouse entertainers collide in the most explosive way possible on daytime television? You won't believe what unfolds when country music superstar Blake Shelton sits down with Kelly Clarkson, only to find himself trapped in a verbal minefield that would leave one of them storming off, set in a fury that shocked everyone in the studio. This isn't just another celebrity interview gone wrong. This is the moment when years of buried tension between former voice coaches erupted into an all-out war of words that had security wondering if they needed to step in. Before we get into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because you're not going to believe what unfolds when Blake Shelton discovers just how far Kelly Clarkson is willing to go to make television gold at his expense. The tension was palpable from the moment Blake Shelton walked onto the Kelly Clarkson show set. What should have been a friendly reunion between former voice coaches quickly transformed into something far more sinister. Kelly, known for her bubbly personality and seemingly genuine warmth, had something different brewing behind her smile that night. The studio audience, expecting their usual dose of feel-good entertainment, had no idea they were about to witness one of the most uncomfortable exchanges in daytime television history. Blake settled into the guest chair with his characteristic easygoing demeanor, flashing that familiar grin that had charmed audiences for years. He wore his signature cowboy hat and casual button-down, looking every bit the laid-back country star his fans adored. Kelly, dressed in a vibrant purple dress that somehow seemed to match the storm brewing in her eyes, leaned forward with an intensity that immediately put Blake on edge. "Blake Shelton, everyone!" Kelly announced to thunderous applause, but there was something calculated about her enthusiasm that those who knew her well might have recognized as a warning sign. "It's so good to have you here. We have so much to catch up on." Blake chuckled, adjusting his position in the chair. "Always a pleasure, Kelly. Thanks for having me on." But Kelly's next words cut through the pleasantries like a knife through butter. "So Blake, let's talk about your recent comments about young artists in country music. You said some pretty interesting things about how the industry has changed, didn't you?" The smile on Blake's face faltered slightly. He hadn't expected to dive straight into controversial territory, especially not something he'd said in what he thought was a private conversation with a journalist. "Well, I think you might be taking that out of context, Kelly. I was just talking about how—" "Out of context?" Kelly interrupted, her voice rising just enough to signal she wasn't backing down. "You literally said that today's young country artists don't have the authenticity that your generation had, that they're all manufactured and lack real country roots. Those were your exact words, weren't they?" The studio fell uncomfortably quiet. Blake's jaw tightened as he realized this wasn't going to be the friendly chat he'd anticipated. "Kelly, that's not exactly what I meant, and you know it. I was talking about the industry as a whole, not attacking individual artists." "But that's interesting, isn't it?" Kelly pressed on, her smile never wavering but her eyes growing colder. "Because some of those young artists you were talking about, they've worked with me. They've been guests on this show. Are you saying I have poor judgment in the talent I choose to support?" Blake's hands gripped the armrests of his chair. This was becoming personal in a way that made him deeply uncomfortable. "Kelly, I think you're twisting my words here. I never said anything about your judgment. I respect what you do, and I always have." "Do you, though?" Kelly's voice took on a tone that was almost sing-song, but with an edge that could cut glass. "Because I have to say, Blake, for someone who respects what I do, you sure seemed comfortable talking to Entertainment Tonight about how some hosts don't know real talent when they see it. Ring any bells?" The color drained from Blake's face. That interview with Entertainment Tonight had been weeks ago, and he'd made those comments in response to a completely different question about industry gatekeepers. He never imagined Kelly would bring it up, let alone in this public forum. "That wasn't about you, Kelly, and you know it." "Wasn't it?" she shot back, leaning even further forward. "Because here's the thing, Blake. I did my homework. I know exactly what you said, when you said it, and the context you said it in. And what I found really fascinating was how you seem to have so many opinions about other people's careers while your own has been, well, let's just say it's had its ups and downs lately. Blake's jaw clenched visibly. The audience could feel the temperature in the room dropping by degrees. What had started as an uncomfortable line of questioning was rapidly escalating into something that felt dangerously personal. My career is doing just fine, Kelly. Thanks for your concern. Is it though? Kelly's laugh was sharp and humorless. Because I have to ask, how did it feel watching your last album barely crack the top 20 while some of those manufactured young artists you criticized are dominating the charts? Must be frustrating for someone with such strong opinions about authenticity. That hit home, and everyone in the studio could see it. Blake's face flushed red, and his hands balled into fists on the chair arms. Kelly, I don't know what's gotten into you today, but this isn't like you. This isn't the person I worked with on The Voice. Oh, but it is me, Blake, Kelly replied with a sweetness that was clearly manufactured. This is exactly who I am when someone decides to take shots at me and my work in the press, and then shows up on my show expecting me to play nice. Did you really think I wouldn't call you out on it? I never took shots at you. Blake's voice rose for the first time, causing several audience members to shift uncomfortably in their seats. Whatever you think I said, you're wrong. Dead wrong. Kelly's smile widened, and it was clear she had been waiting for this moment. Am I, Blake? Because I have the audio right here if you'd like to hear it again. Should we play it for everyone? The threat hung in the air like a loaded weapon. Blake stared at her in disbelief, his mind racing as he tried to remember exactly what he'd said and how it might sound taken out of context. The studio audience was completely silent now, sensing they were witnessing something that had gone far beyond entertainment and into the realm of personal warfare. You wouldn't, Blake said quietly, but even as the words left his mouth, he could see in Kelly's eyes that she absolutely would. Try me, Kelly responded, her voice dropping to almost a whisper but carrying clearly through the studio's microphones. You came on my show, Blake. My house, my rules. And in my house, we don't let people get away with talking behind our backs and then pretending to be our friends to our faces. Blake leaned back in his chair, finally understanding the full scope of what was happening. This wasn't just about some misinterpreted comments to a journalist. This was about something deeper, something that had been festering between them for much longer than either had let on. The realization that he'd walked into an ambush began to settle over him like a dark cloud. Kelly, he said, his voice steady but strained, if you have something to say to me, just say it. Don't play these games. But Kelly was just getting started, and the look in her eyes promised that what came next would be even worse than what Blake had already endured. The first round had been fired, and there was no going back now. You know what, Blake? Kelly said, settling back in her chair with the confidence of someone who held all the cards. Let me tell you what really bothers me. It's not just the comments about young artists. It's not even the thinly veiled shots at my show. It's the fact that you sat in that voice chair for years, acting like my friend, my mentor even, while secretly thinking I didn't deserve to be there. Blake's eyes widened in genuine shock. What are you talking about? I never... Oh, but you did, Kelly cut him off, her voice gaining momentum like a freight train. See, I talked to some people, Blake. People who were in those production meetings. People who heard you question whether I had the experience to coach alongside seasoned veterans like yourself. Remember those conversations? The blood drained from Blake's face completely now. Those had been private discussions with producers, casual concerns he'd expressed about Kelly's lack of coaching experience when she first joined the show. He'd never meant them maliciously, but he could see how they might sound different coming from Kelly's mouth in front of a live studio audience. Kelly, those were private conversations about the show format, not personal attacks on you, Blake said, his voice strained. You're twisting everything. Am I? Kelly's laugh was cold and calculating, because what I heard was a man who couldn't handle the fact that a woman with actual vocal talent was joining his boys' club. A woman who, let's be honest, has sold more records, won more Grammys, and has a more successful television show than he does. The audience gasped audibly at the brutal comparison. Blake's hands were shaking now, whether from anger or humiliation was impossible to tell. Kelly, stop, just stop. This isn't you. This is exactly me, Kelly snapped, her composure finally cracking enough to show the real anger underneath. This is me defending myself against someone who smiled to my face for years while undermining me behind my back. This is me calling out a hypocrite who talks about authenticity while being the fakest person in the room. Blake shot up from his chair, towering over Kelly's seated form. I am not fake, and I never undermined you. Whatever twisted version of events you've concocted in your head, you're wrong. Sit down, Blake, Kelly commanded, her voice ice cold. We're not done here. Like hell we're not, Blake shot back. But something in Kelly's expression made him pause. She reached beside her chair and pulled out a tablet, tapping the screen with deliberate precision. See, here's the thing about calling someone fake, Blake, Kelly said, her voice dropping to that dangerous whisper again. It's really only effective if you're not about to get exposed as a fraud yourself. Blake's face went white as he slowly sank back into his chair. What are you doing? What I should have done years ago, Kelly replied, holding up the tablet so the cameras could catch her scrolling through what appeared to be text messages. See, while you were busy criticizing young artists for being manufactured, I did a little digging into your own authenticity. Tell me, Blake, how authentic is it to have your management team pay radio programmers to add extra spins to your singles? The studio fell dead silent. Blake's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, no sound coming out. The accusation hung in the air like a toxic cloud, poisoning everything around it. I don't know what you're talking about, Blake finally managed to croak out, but his voice betrayed him completely. Don't you? Kelly pressed, her smile returning but sharper than ever. Because I have the receipts right here. Emails between your team and 3 different radio stations. Payment records. Meeting notes. Should I start reading them aloud? Or would you like to explain to everyone how paying for radio play fits into your definition of authenticity? Blake was trapped, and everyone in the studio could see it. His carefully constructed image as the down-to-earth country everyman was crumbling in real time, and Kelly was the one holding the sledgehammer. Those are private business documents, Blake said desperately. You have no right. I have every right, Kelly interrupted, especially when the person who benefits from those shady deals has the audacity to criticize other artists' authenticity on national television. The hypocrisy is breathtaking, Blake. Really, truly breathtaking. Blake's face cycled through several shades of red as he struggled to find words that might salvage the situation. Kelly, I don't know where you got that information, but what? It's not true? Because I can call the station managers right now. They're standing by. Would you like me to put them on speaker so they can confirm everything I just said? The threat was like a dagger to Blake's chest. He looked around the studio desperately, as if searching for an escape route that didn't exist. The audience was staring at him with a mixture of shock and disgust, and he could see the cameras capturing every moment of his humiliation. This is insane, Blake muttered, running his hands through his hair. This is absolutely insane. You ambushed me. I gave you exactly what you deserved, Kelly shot back. You want to talk about manufactured artists? Let's talk about your manufactured career. You want to question other people's authenticity? Let's examine yours under a microscope. Blake stood up again, this time with more force. I'm not going to sit here and let you destroy my reputation with whatever lies you've cooked up. Lies? Kelly's voice rose to match his. These aren't lies, Blake. These are facts. Cold, hard, documented facts that show you're everything you claim to hate about the music industry. You're a fake, Blake Shelton. A complete and total fake. The words hit Blake like physical blows. His face contorted with rage as he took a step toward Kelly's desk. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know anything about my career or how I built it. I know you built it on payoffs and backroom deals while preaching about authenticity, Kelly fired back, standing up to face him. I know you spent years looking down on other artists while your own success was bought and paid for. I know you're a hypocrite of the highest order. Blake's hands were clenched into fists at his sides now, his whole body trembling with barely controlled fury. You planned this. You brought me here just to humiliate me on television. I brought you here to give you a chance to explain yourself, Kelly said, her voice deadly calm. But instead of owning up to your hypocrisy, You're acting like the victim, just like you always do." "Just like I always do?" Blake's voice cracked with disbelief. "Kelly, I thought we were friends. I thought we had respect for each other." "Respect?" Kelly laughed bitterly. "You lost my respect the moment you decided to talk me in the press while pretending to be my friend. You lost it when you questioned my qualifications behind my back. And you definitely lost it when I discovered that your entire career is built on the same manufactured foundation you love to criticize in others." Blake stared at her for a long moment, his chest heaving with emotion. The man who had walked onto the set as a beloved country star was now standing exposed and humiliated, his reputation in tatters and his friendship with Kelly destroyed beyond repair. "This isn't over," Blake said quietly, his voice filled with a menace that made several audience members shift uncomfortably. Kelly's smile was triumphant and cruel. "Oh, but it is, Blake. It absolutely is." The tension in the studio had reached a breaking point, and everyone could sense that something explosive was about to happen. Blake's face was a mask of rage and humiliation, while Kelly sat behind her desk like a queen surveying her conquered enemy. The final confrontation was coming, and it promised to be unlike anything daytime television had ever seen. For a moment that felt like an eternity, Blake stood frozen in place, his entire body vibrating with barely contained fury. Then, like a dam bursting, everything exploded at once. "You know what, Kelly?" Blake's voice erupted with a volume that made everyone in the studio jump. "You want to play this game? Let's play it. Let's talk about authenticity, shall we? Let's talk about who's really fake in this room." Kelly's triumphant expression flickered for the first time since the interview began. She hadn't expected Blake to fight back with this level of intensity. "Blake, don't." "No, you don't get to stop me now," Blake roared, pointing an accusatory finger directly at her face. "You opened this door, so we're walking through it. You want to talk about manufactured careers? Let's discuss how you've built your entire television persona on being America's sweetheart while being an absolute monster behind the scenes." The audience gasped, and Kelly's face went pale. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" Blake's laugh was harsh and bitter. "Let's talk about how you treat your staff, Kelly. Let's discuss the turnover rate on this show. Let's examine how many assistants have quit because of your impossible demands and volcanic temper tantrums when things don't go exactly your way." Kelly shot up from her chair, her composure completely shattered. "That's enough, Blake. You're making things up." "Am I?" Blake stepped closer to her desk, his voice dropping to a dangerous growl. "Because I've talked to some of those people, Kelly. The ones who signed NDAs to keep quiet about what it's really like working for you. The ones who describe you as a nightmare boss, who screams at interns and reduces grown adults to tears over minor mistakes." "Stop it," Kelly hissed, but her voice lacked the confidence it had carried earlier. "But wait, there's more," Blake continued, his anger fueling him now. "Let's talk about your famous friendship with your voice co-coaches. Want to tell the audience what you really said about John Legend after he left the show? Or should I share your charming comments about Ariana Grande's work ethic?" Kelly's hands were shaking now, her carefully constructed facade crumbling in real time. "Blake, I'm warning you." "You're warning me?" Blake's voice reached a crescendo that echoed through the studio. "You just spent 20 minutes trying to destroy my career on national television, and you're warning me? The audacity is incredible, Kelly. Truly incredible." The studio audience was completely silent now, watching this nuclear meltdown unfold before their eyes. Several people in the front row looked genuinely frightened by the intensity of the confrontation. Blake leaned over Kelly's desk, bringing his face inches from hers. "Here's what's really authentic, Kelly. What's authentic is admitting that you're a fraud. A complete and total fraud who's built her entire career on fake niceness, while being a vicious, calculating witch behind closed doors." "Get away from me," Kelly whispered, pressing herself back against her chair. "Or what?" Blake snarled. "You'll have security remove me? Go ahead, call them. Let everyone see how the sweet, innocent Kelly Clarkson handles it when someone finally calls her out for what she really is." Kelly's eyes darted around the studio desperately, looking for help that wasn't coming. The crew members were frozen in place, unsure whether to intervene or keep filming this spectacular disaster. You want to know what's manufactured, Kelly? Blake continued, his voice now carrying a cold, deadly calm that was somehow more terrifying than his shouting. What's manufactured is this entire show. This fake set, your fake smile, your fake concern for your guests. You don't care about any of us. We're just content for you to exploit for ratings. That's not true, Kelly said weakly. But even she didn't sound convinced. Isn't it? Blake straightened up, towering over her. Then explain this ambush. Explain why you brought me here under false pretenses just to humiliate me. Explain why you've been planning this attack for weeks, gathering ammunition to destroy someone you claimed was your friend. Kelly opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. For the first time in the entire confrontation, she was speechless. Blake nodded slowly, as if her silence confirmed everything he'd suspected. That's what I thought. You can't explain it because there is no explanation except that you're exactly what I said you are. A fake, manipulative person who gets off on destroying others. He stepped back from the desk and adjusted his hat with deliberate precision. You know what, Kelly? You win. You got what you wanted. You humiliated me on television, exposed my business dealings, and probably damaged my career. Congratulations. I hope it was worth it. Kelly finally found her voice, but it came out as barely a whisper. Blake, wait. Wait for what? Blake cut her off. For you to twist the knife a little more? For you to find some new way to hurt me? No thanks. I'm done. He turned toward the audience, his voice carrying clearly through the studio's microphones. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize that you had to witness this. This isn't entertainment. This is a public execution disguised as an interview. Kelly Clarkson invited me here not as a friend or even as a professional courtesy, but as a victim. Someone she could sacrifice on the altar of her own ego. Blake looked back at Kelly one final time, and his voice carried a finality that made everyone in the studio understand this was truly the end. I came here thinking I was visiting a friend. Instead, I found a stranger wearing her face. Someone I don't recognize and, frankly, someone I never want to see again. Kelly's eyes filled with tears. Whether from guilt, anger, or humiliation was impossible to tell. Blake, please. No, Blake said firmly. We're done, Kelly. This friendship, this professional relationship, whatever this was, it's over. Completely over. He ripped off his wireless microphone and threw it onto Kelly's desk with a loud thud that echoed through the silent studio. I won't be manipulated, humiliated, or used for your entertainment ever again. Blake turned and walked toward the studio exit with long, determined strides. The cameras followed his every step as he moved through the stunned audience, his jaw set and his eyes blazing with righteous anger. Blake! Wait! Kelly called after him, finally standing up from her chair. We can talk about this! Blake stopped at the studio door and turned back one final time. His voice carried across the entire studio with crystal clarity. No, Kelly, we can't. There's nothing left to talk about. You made your choice when you decided to ambush me. Now I'm making mine. He pushed through the studio doors with such force that they slammed against the walls, the sound reverberating through the space like a gunshot. The cameras captured his silhouette disappearing into the hallway beyond, leaving behind a studio full of shocked faces and one devastated host. Kelly stood behind her desk, tears streaming down her face as the full weight of what had just happened hit her. The audience sat in stunned silence, unsure whether to applaud, gasp, or simply leave. The crew members remained frozen, their cameras still rolling on what had undoubtedly become the most explosive moment in daytime television history. In the space of 30 minutes, two former friends had destroyed each other completely, leaving nothing but wreckage and regret in their wake. Blake Shelton had walked onto the Kelly Clarkson show as a guest and walked out as an enemy, never to return. And Kelly Clarkson, for all her preparation and calculated cruelty, was left alone with the consequences of her actions, and the cameras still rolling on her tears.